Okay, hello and welcome back to the B4 podcast, the podcast where we chat all things Beverly and Beverly's 400th anniversary, from the history of our city to all the exciting events coming up in 2026. We're here to chat with the community members that care deeply about Beverly and are making it all possible. We are coming to you from the BevCam podcast studio. Big shout out to BevCam. They rock. And this place is awesome. And we're so lucky to have it downtown. And we're also coming back from a little summer hiatus. And boy, did it fly by. You can expect episodes from now on coming out monthly, now through the start of the big celebration year. And then at that point, I truly don't know where I'll be because I'll be planning a lot of events. So maybe you'll catch me here, maybe not. So get them in now. But today, I am delighted and honored to introduce our guest. You may know him from the Salem News. You may follow him on Substack through the Beverly Beat. You may be wondering how the heck we got such a local celebrity on the podcast. Big warm welcome for Paul Leighton. Hello.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. We're excited to chat, and I have tons of questions for you. But first off, I just kind of wanted to get a sense of how'd you get here? Did you grow up on the North Shore? What brought you to Beverly?
Yes, I grew up in Beverly, so I didn't have to travel far to be involved in the community. But no, I'm from Beverly, born and raised here, which I think has played a big role in the job I've done over the years in being a local reporter. And from the time I was young, I was interested in newspapers, mostly through sports. I was a big sports fan. That's how I started reading the newspapers.
Oh, nice. Did you play sports?
Yeah, I played. I wasn't great. I didn't make my teams in high school, but
you wrote about them.
Yes, I wrote. Yeah, a lot of times the sports writers are the guys who are not good enough to make the team. But
gotcha.
And so I remember one time, my mother told me when I was a kid, well, you can. There's actually a job, being a sports writer, and you can do that for a living. And I was probably 10, and I was like, you mean you can go to Red Sox games and get paid for it,
It's a dream.
So yeah, I decided that I wanted to be a reporter, so that's what I did.
That's awesome. Yeah. Nice. Now, do you identify as a townie? Is that your title?
Yeah,
being born
it's
and
funny.
raised?
I think I do have a sweatshirt that says Townie that one of my daughters got me a few years ago, so they call me a Townie.
Nice.
Anyway, but I guess they're Townies too because they were born here. But
that's true. Second generation.
It's kind of funny, the word Townie, because it's it's sort of an honor. I don't know. I guess you call it an honor. I mean, I was born and raised here. I like that fact. But in being a reporter, I always want to make sure that I'm not just writing stories by a townie for townies, if that makes sense. And
totally.
I've been doing it for so long, and I didn't want to be the guy who became insulated and talk about the old days and that type of thing. And sometimes I do associate that word townie. It can be used either way, but I take it as a compliment. I'm a
I
townie.
think you should.
I should have worn my
Badge of
townie
honor.
sweatshirt. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And I will say I'm not a townie. I grew up on the South Shore. I'm fully converted. I love the North Shore more.
Awesome.
But I will say your stories always resonate to me and certainly don't seem insular.
No,
so I think
thank
you've
you.
done
I
a really great job.
I appreciate that. And I know we're going to talk about the Beverly Beat a little bit, but I actually had a table at the Lobster Festival during homecoming the other week and talked to a lot of people. I was really encouraged that a lot of younger people who recently moved to the city have said they liked it or are interested in it. And people have told me it's really helped them, acclimate to Beverly, and they feel like they know what's going on. So I love that part of the Beverly Beat.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a strong community feeling here. I think that's the silver lining plus side of that townie-ship is that folks really dig into the community side. But then as a newcomer, how do you fit in? How do you sort of get a sense of what's going on in town?
Right,
there's that double-edged sword, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the changes in the community. Like a lot of places, back in the day, people didn't move as much. People weren't as mobile, and they tended to stay in the community they grew up. I think that's not as common, although you still see it a lot, I think, around the North Shore. People seem to love their communities. But I like the fact that there's a mix. They were newer people, and it's I think that adds to the vibrancy of the city.
Definitely, yeah. And there's a lot to love about the North Shore, and especially Beverly. But let's dig a little bit into your time at the Salem News.
Okay.
So how long were you there?
I was there basically for 40 years, which is a long time. It was
That's
actually, I
amazing.
started when it was the Beverly Times, which is a newspaper that no longer exists, which is, part of the story of journalism now with newspapers going out of business over the years. But I think it was in 1995 the two papers merged.
Okay.
And it just became known as the Salem News. So I sort of stayed in the same place, but it was a different name. And I always loved the job of reporting, being a local reporter. And back when I first started, we had a lot more reporters. The newspaper industry was thriving at the time. I kind of caught the tail end of the glory days of the newspaper business, so I'm glad I did that. But I also worked through the downside, the sort of demise of many newspapers across the country. The whole financial model was broken by the internet, basically.
Sure.
And newspapers have been struggling ever since and still are. Luckily, the Salem News is still in existence. They still do a great job, but they have maybe 3 or 4 reporters now. When I started, there were 15 or more.
Whoa.
So
wow, what a change.
Yeah, and that's been hard to see over the years, but I think, as we'll talk about, there are a lot of other ways to get the news out, too, than the standard print newspaper of back in the day.
Yeah, it's been such a wild ride
Yes.
of change in how we digest information and what sources and how all that comes about.
Totally.
But I will say I rely on the Salem News still for a lot of my local
Great.
news.
That's great.
Yeah. So while you were there, was there ever any particular story that just kind of stood out to you as like, oh my gosh, this is the best Beverly story I've ever seen?
No, that's a great question. I think of the story I think of the most is because it had the most impact, I guess, is one I did on this site in Beverly. It's known as the Varian site. It's off of Brimble Avenue. And
Yes.
there was contamination there for years. And I had never written about it for the longest time. I would see these reports every so often that it's being cleaned up. And then I think it was during the pandemic and I was working from home. And all of a sudden I decided, it hit me like, why is this taking so long? It had been 30 years of trying to clean up the contamination.
That's a
and the
long
risk
time.
was that it flows underground. You can't see it or smell it or anything, but it flows underground and it potentially threatens the neighborhoods, the houses. It vaporizes and can get into the house. So anyway, I finally decided to do a story, and the more I looked into it, I wrote a story, and it's really prompted like an investigation by the state. It prompted the company, Varian, which is now based in California. They don't even own the land anymore, but they're still responsible for cleaning up. They're spending millions of dollars in doing a much better, robust job of cleaning it up. They're holding public meetings, keeping people informed. So that really made me feel good personally, but also that was an example of what newspapers can do and the power they can have. Even a smaller newspaper like the Salem News, that can really affect change and do some good for a community.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, not just sort of telling people the story, but prompting action.
Yes, and that's the biggest thing. And those stories are hard to get, and that's one of the problems with these newspaper staffs becoming smaller and smaller. And as it went on, like we have to, and the people at the Salem News now, and they do a great job. Like you have to try to keep up with the city council meetings and school committee and what Main Street is doing and this business. So the routine day-to-day stuff, which is also very important, but it leaves little time for investigative work. The Boston Globe and the New York Times have big staffs and investigative staffs, and they do these incredible stories. The smaller local papers don't have that.
Right.
It's usually one person maybe trying to do it on the side while they're doing other things.
Yeah.
And so it was good to be able to keep that up, but I do worry about the absence of that in a lot of smaller towns and communities. The lack of investigative work by newspapers.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. That's really cool, and
Yeah,
kudos to you. I think that's
thanks.
like what an amazing article that you were able to bring together and spurn some change.
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about Beverly Beat.
Yeah, the Beverly Beat. It's been exciting. So I left the Salem News, retired essentially, back in January, and I had.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I had been reading about Substack, which is the platform that the Beverly Beat is on. I've been reading about it for a couple of years, and I was seeing that a lot of retired and laid off journalists had started their own news sites on Substack, and I thought that might be fun as sort of a retirement job and keep writing stories. So that's what I did. I started it up in February, and I've gotten just this great response. It's really been kind of overwhelming, and it's turned into pretty much a full-time job, but I can kind of do what I want when I want, which is really fun.
That's nice. So it's like a post-retirement job that you're in control of.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. And like I said, I always loved my job. There were frustrations because of the smaller staff, and we had to do this and that. And now I tell people I do the same job. I just got rid of the parts I didn't like and kept the parts I liked.
Who doesn't want that? It's ideal.
It's like, wow, I can't. And like I said, the response has been good. I have almost 2,000 people signed up for it.
That's great.
A lot of people pay. It's optional to pay mostly. I do put paywalls on some of the stories,
sure,
which some people get really mad about, and some people understand. It's this whole thing about which is part of the journalism business. Do you pay for online content? And people aren't used to paying for online stuff, but that's a new way to pay for the journalism business. So I'm still trying to figure that all out. But the bottom line is it's been a great response. It's really been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'm sure for as many people that find the frustration in not being able to get free online content, there's those that see the value in supporting artists. And I would consider what you're doing art. I mean, you're taking
really nice,
you're taking your time and your skill, and you're bringing news to the folks that otherwise we wouldn't be getting this news.
No, that's nice of you to say. And to be honest, I've gotten way more. People don't really complain. I've gotten more more appreciation for the job in the last few months than I probably did for years at the Salem News. It's sort of got to be taken for granted a little bit, which I understand. When I was working for the Salem News, it's like it's been around for 150 years or whatever. But when I started up the Beverly Beat and was doing a lot of the same things, I get all this praise and appreciation. So it really felt good. So I think it's what you say, that people are starting to realize how important newspapers are, and getting real news by a professional reporter that's fact-checked. And nothing against Facebook and social media and all this, but you got to be careful.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. So people do appreciate it, bottom line, which is really nice.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So sort of in terms of, we talked about how there was a Beverly newspaper and it shifted into the Salem newspaper. We've gone from print to online. In your perspective, what's sort of been the biggest shift in how Beverly's been getting their news?
Yeah. It's definitely the shift from print to online.
Yeah.
The same as everywhere. And to me, it doesn't matter where you read it. I know a lot of people my age say, I grew up reading in print, and that's what I want to do. But I don't even read a print newspaper anymore. I would rather read online. So I don't. But what why that matters is how do you pay for it? It used to be, when it was in print, newspapers, I think they made 75 to 80% of the revenue through the print advertising.
Wow.
The businesses on main streets and the shopping center, the big box retailers, and a big thing was the classifieds. And Craigslist just wiped that out, and the internet wiped out a lot of the advertising. So it's the struggle has been, the readers are still there, but how do you pay for the news when you published online? Mm-hmm. That's what I was talking about with Substack, is this relatively new way. It's a newsletter that you get directly in your email box that you choose to sign up for, and you can pay for it if you want. So that's one way that people are trying to come up with ways to fund the newspaper business. A lot of nonprofits have started up, and just people in the different communities have started their own. So people are trying to find different ways to pay for journalism, which is good.
That is good. Yeah, and there's adaptability to it in terms of the journalist side as well. You're finding new avenues and ways to get your stories out and be heard without having to rely on the old ways of revenue.
Right. And the good part is that it gives, gives everybody a chance to be a reporter if they want to, or to publish something. You just, you can go on any social media and get your word out there. And it used to be a monopoly. The local newspaper was the only way you could find out news, basically. And they had, so.
And I'm sure there's pluses and minuses to that.
Yeah. So I think there is a lot of good to it, but it's just, it's like what's real and what's not, what's
Right.
true and what's not is really, really difficult
So
to determine.
choose wisely who you follow on
Yes.
Substack.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, awesome. So if we were to go back even further in time than like the Beverly newspaper and, say 50, 100, 200 years ago, what did news look like back then?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, when you had prepared me for this, which I appreciate that, and you talked about what was it like back in the day, and I did find this book I have here, which the people who are watching can see it.
For those
it's
listening.
It's the 100 Years of the Beverly Times.
Yes, such a cool book.
Which
exactly what I was asking about.
Which I had in my closet in a container way back. But anyway, I can give some examples of.
Let's go back in time.
Is that all right? I don't want
Absolutely.
to go
read
too
us.
much of
Let's
back in the
see.
day, but since we're talking about the history and the 400th and so forth, but there's a story from when the United Shoe first came to Beverly, which is what the Cummings Center
Yes.
is now, and this was in 1903, and I'll just show, because I love the way they used to do the headlines.
Oh my
they
gosh,
have
it's
like
that
10
old
headlines.
timey. Yeah, wow. Okay, so coming to
Yeah,
Beverly.
it doesn't make it feel like, wow, this is really a big story,
So this was when they were first opening
when they were
United Shoe?
building the United Shoe.
1903.
In 1903, it's incredible. And
Wow.
and now, so that's just an example of how they would report it with these descending headlines, which I loved. And anyway,
And the cost of the plant, did that say
yeah,
half a
how much
million?
yeah, $500,000.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it says we'll employ over 2,500 men. It doesn't say anything about women, right? It's all
well,
men are going to get the
1903.
jobs, and it's so anyway, it's really fun to look at these in a way. This is 1909 when President Taft first came to town. I know some of this stuff you can't really.
That's right. He liked
see,
to
but
vacation here, right?
Yes, he vacationed here for like 4 years.
Yeah.
2 years at Lynch Park, and then they kicked him out, and there's a whole story about that from back then.
Oh, we'll have to dig into that on
Yeah.
another episode.
That would be. It's
Next
a great
Substack
story.
article?
Yes. The day Taft came to town, but yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, there's a lot of other stories. This is in the local newspapers used to do this a lot too. I guess maybe still, but if there's a big national story, like we used to struggle for that with that at the Salem News. If there's a big national story, should that be the headline, or no, this is just local news? But anyway, this is, I mean, the outbreak of World War II, you don't get any bigger than that.
The Beverly
and you get these
News.
classic,
Wow.
huge headlines,
Wild.
War declared by U.S. It makes, it's like really brings it back to you, just seeing a simple headline like that. To me, it's like
Folks were sitting in Beverly reading their printed news and learning about the war.
Yeah, did they? I assume they didn't even know until the newspaper showed up, right?
How else would they?
Yeah, I know.
Right.
If you think about it.
Yeah, that's wild.
I know. I mean, I kind of knew that, but just seeing the headline like that, it really emphasizes. So how important was this newspaper to, to deliver the news? It's
Right.
incredible.
That is incredible.
And then there were 1970s. There were protests of the Vietnam War at all the local colleges, Endicott College, Salem State, North Shore Community College.
Wow.
So that's a good example of it's a national story, but they localized it. That's what we do with local newspapers.
I will say the 1970s fonts are getting much more fun for the headlines.
Right, I know.
Really
a little more
expanding,
stylish.
getting creative.
Yeah. And then I just have one more. There was that big fire in 1984, the Elliott Chambers fire. I don't know if
Yes.
the rooming house fire down on Rantoul Street, and it's kind of a big headline that you could probably see. That was such a big story in Beverly. It really led to rooming houses having to have smoke detectors.
Oh,
So that was the importance of that. If you can see
So
that.
it's 1984.
1984, and just
House
last
blaze.
year,
Oof.
the guy that was the guy that was convicted of setting this and killing 15 people got released. There was a new trial and new evidence. I went and covered it up in Lawrence, and I had read about this for years. This was just a little bit before I started covering, if you can believe it. But I actually had done stories on the anniversary of it and spoken to families of people who died in there. But I actually went, I think it was 2 years ago, up in Lawrence, and there was a trial, and there was the guy, James Carver, who I had seen his picture for years, black and white photo from 1984, James Carver, and he's sitting there in a wheelchair, like 5 feet away from me. I'm like, that's the guy that I've been reading about all these years, and he got freed They looked at evidence and they said there were now, new ways of how you interview witnesses. There was new, technology with how the fire started. There was all this stuff. But he released, and he's out of jail now. 40 years later or more.
Wow.
So these
just to
same
see,
stories are still continuing, all these years later.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez. Well, along those lines,
Yeah.
Throughout all of your work, has there ever been a story sort of unexpected that just got so much bigger than you ever thought it would?
Yeah, I would say one word, Schubert.
Yeah, okay, yep. That makes sense.
That was people love animal stories, and Schubert. I remember the first day, and it was really a fun story.
What a special week in Beverly.
Yeah, it really was, and it's still the name still means something in Beverly a couple of years later, and you can still buy Schubert, stuffed animals.
Started a whole economy here.
Yeah, it did.
And I still see on Instagram, I'll get reels that are creators from not even Beverly. They are just creators of good news, and they'll still do reels of hey, did you know there was a seal in this town? Schubert is still very much alive and well.
That's incredible.
In the media.
So that was kind of fun to cover. I remember there was one day, and I don't live too far from the Shoe Pond, Cumming Center, and there was a friend of mine who was walking. He walks by the Shoe Pond every day, and he texted me. He said, Paul, there were divers in the water. This is when Schubert had been there for a few days, and he said, I don't know what's going on, but I had no car at the time. My wife and daughters had taken our cars, and so I ran to the Cumming Center because I thought they were going to find Schubert.
Oh my God, yes, I love it.
It's one of the few times I've actually run to a story, and it was because of Schubert of all
of
things.
all the stories. I feel like that's appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he climbed out of the pond or whatever seals do, walked out, crawled, and went to the police station and all that. It's you couldn't make that stuff up, right?
It took me a long time to believe that was really what happened.
Is it real or not?
Yeah. What a roller coaster of a week.
Yeah. That was really fun.
So great. Oh, I love that. Well, as we head into our 400th, so 2026, 400th anniversary of Beverly being a city, besides Schubert, what headlines do you think will sort of define us in this moment for those looking back? Yeah,
that's a great question, and that really made me think because, especially in the newspaper business, you just write your story that day, and then you write the story the next day, and sometimes you lose the perspective,
Yeah. Someday all your headlines will be in a book like that.
Yeah, I know.
In
really,
2100 or whatever year.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine that. Gosh, that's kind of scary.
Sorry.
But no, it's true, and it's good to think. It's good to think in those terms, in bigger terms. But I think the big stories looking back at Beverly will be. I really think the change in the improvement in the downtown, and a lot of credit to Main Streets too, going back to when Main Street first started too. And I mean, I grew up here, and I know some people still say, oh, there's been too much of this and too much of that in the traffic and so forth. But I mean, downtown Cabot Street and especially Rantoul Street are way better than they used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion. And
I would tend to agree.
I mean, if you walked Rantoul Street back in the day when I was a kid, it was like gas stations and empty mill buildings, and it was it's
massively underused. Yeah.
It's way better. The transformation has been great, and it has brought some problems, and I think that sort of leads or goes along with the other big story of our time is the affordability of housing. I mean, it's in Beverly, but it's everywhere. And you know how Beverly just got named the hottest zip code in the country?
I don't know if that's good or bad news at this point. Well, I'm a little nervous.
No, it's great that you mentioned that, because read the Beverly Beat, because maybe even later today I have a story. The town that won that honor the last 2 years is in Ohio, Gahanna, Ohio.
Interesting.
And I'm like, they won it 2 years in a row. So I called the mayor there, I called the Chamber of Commerce, their equivalent, and they didn't call me back. But I finally got a real estate agent, I think I talked to him yesterday, saying, what impact did that have? Is it good? Is it bad? What are the downsides? He said basically it's good, but it did bring a lot of attention to the town, and which can drive up prices. In some ways, it's hard to say how much is attributable just to that honor, because prices are going up everywhere.
Of course.
And it's a desirable town like Beverly is. But anyway, so that's a good question. What does that mean? But so there were a lot of good things. It's great to have people say that you have a great city and everybody wants to live there, but then it makes it hard to afford, you know. I have two daughters in their 20s, and one is actually about to move into an apartment in Beverly, and it's like so much money. You know, she's a school teacher, and I'm like, okay, but I think it's good, you know, the affordability. And then for older people like me, it's great that my house is worth, you know, so much more than it used to be, but it's also, if, you know, we sell it, then where do we go? You know, where do we go? You know, the problems of affordability. So, so I think those are the two big. The city there's one more thing that the city has changed in terms of its demographics too. The city did a race equity audit a few years ago, and they looked at the demographics of the city, and I think it was from 2010 to 2020, 3,200 new people moved into the city, and most of them were people of color, and which was has been a big change in the city, and you know, I think for the good. The city's, you know, more diverse. It's still, you know, a predominantly white community, but it is. But it has changed in that way. So
to see that shift, it's nice.
Yeah,
it's good.
I think it's good, yeah.
I continue to go back to this thought of Beverly being a hidden gem.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe we're not so hidden
no more
anymore.
Hidden.
Yeah.
If you're the hottest zip code in the country, can you be
not
a
hiding.
hidden gem at the same?
We're just a gem.
Just a gem.
Well, I guess that's our new cross to bear.
A gem, yeah. Yeah, I know.
Right.
But it's great to, I mean, again, as somebody who grew up here, and, you know, as I get older, I always say, like, we can't take this stuff for granted. I'm used to growing up in a city where you could walk to this beach and get down to Independence Park and see the views, and you have the train and the access to Boston. Everybody here knows the advantages of Beverly, and I think now that the downtown is much better too, I think that was the last step that really needed to make it a, you know, community where so many people want to live.
Definitely.
You know?
I mean, now we have so many good restaurants. We have such a good foodie scene and good small businesses. It's really impressive and exciting to be here right now.
Yeah, it's really great.
It's great.
Yeah.
So, talking more about sort of all the plans that, so the Beverly 400 board has been working really hard putting all this calendar of events for 2026. And I think some of our concern is just overwhelming people with information and making sure that, you know, everyone kind of hears about everything we're doing, but doesn't get that sort of like 400th fatigue. So, I don't know, tips from the expert.
No, that's a good point.
How do we get the news out?
Right, because the good part is, you know, you've started early in the planning. I think, well, but that's true. The news would come out over a longer period of time, you know. I mean, I just think a lot of what the committee's doing, and, you know, using social media as much as possible, and just sort of quick hits here and there, and like a podcast like this. I don't know. I think it's fine. I don't know if I'd worry so much about too much information, only because people pick and choose their information so much now. You know, if you don't want to click on that link, or, you know, go to that Facebook page or look at that Instagram post, then you don't have to. You know, that's kind of the sense I get, and so I don't have any like magic bullet way, but I just think the committee's doing a good job of it. And
that's nice to hear. Thank you.
Like the Hannah Nautilus battle, I'm really interested in that, and that reenactment, how that's going to work. That's the story I want to do, you know.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. Yeah, I've stayed out of the planning of that one. I'm kind of just excited to be a participant, because that's just going to be such a cool thing to see.
Right. It's going to be off of like Dane Street Beach, is it, or Independence Park?
Yes, that's the idea. Yeah, they want to really recreate it pretty true to form. So sort of in between Salem and Beverly, right in the harbor there.
Wow.
We'll see the reenactment of the battle. We'll see how it goes.
There's no AI involved, is there? In this
Absolutely not. Real ships. I know. What a world.
What if you just did it all AI? Yeah, all AI. That would be.
We'll just AI the whole 400th celebration. No, this is boots on the ground. This is community members doing all the work.
Well, I really appreciate it, just as a resident, all the work that the volunteers do. That one thing I tell people from covering a lot of city meetings, and, you know, I was a sports writer for the first 15 years of my career. I had never stepped foot inside City Hall until I had to cover a city council meeting for the first time. But all these boards in the city and the people who volunteer for them, this is like the planning board, the zoning board, there's a lot of them, and they put so much work in. And every time I go to one of these meetings, which can be kind of boring in some ways and can be hard to write about, but they're doing the work that needs to be done to make the city work well, to make sure that your new garage is 10 feet away from your neighbors, not 8 feet away. That's the type of thing they do. But it just reminded me when you said, volunteers, that people should really be appreciative of all the work that volunteers do in the city. That's part of what makes it, turns it into the hottest zip code, is a lot of people
That's
are
fair.
doing a lot of work to improve it,
Definitely.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people in this city. I always want to say town, but we're a city.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people here that really deeply care. And one of the reasons I chose to sort of make my home in Beverly is I've never experienced such a strong sense of community.
Really? Wow.
Really,
That's good to hear.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder why that is.
there's some kind of magic. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured it out yet. I know it wasn't existing where I grew up on the South Shore. It just felt very disjointed, and everyone sort of in their own little world. I went to school out in Western Mass, which I think has some great community, but really here it's like people dig in. Like if there's a call for help, all your neighbors show up. I've seen so many examples of just people showing up when they need to.
Wow.
And it's really exciting to see.
That's really nice to hear. Again, as somebody who grew up here, I don't, I can sometimes take these things for granted. So it is really great to hear those perspectives. Yeah, really good.
Well, I hope to someday maybe be an honorary townie. I don't know. We'll see. I've been here for 13 years.
All right.
Probably stay for another 30, and then maybe I'll get the
We should
the
set
title.
set the rules for what qualifies.
Yes, I know. I need something to work towards.
And you can have a ceremony where you're knighted as a
I want a key to the city or
townie.
something.
That's actually a good promotion for become an honorary townie.
I'll have to talk to the mayor.
Yeah. The mayor's a townie, so he
There
would
we
know,
go. Yeah. All right. All right. Well, I will end with some silly questions because why not? It is a Friday. If the Beverly Beat had a mascot,
Oh, yeah.
who's it going to be?
Wow. I know, I've struggled with this one, but I like the image of a townie now that you mention it. I really just thought of this because I wasn't really sure. We were thinking of, the Falconer statue at Lynch Park, something that sort of gives you the idea of Beverly and
The logo of the Beverly 400.
yes,
Or
yes,
Falconer,
that's right.
yeah.
So okay.
So we already took that one.
It's
Sorry.
already- I mean,
Cross it off your list.
I did the Beverly Beat logo myself on Canva, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but that's what it is. Just like the words, the Beverly Beat.
And you have the
So
high school colors on there, right?
Yeah,
Orange and black.
Orange and black. So,
Yeah.
but I don't have any an image, but maybe some type of townie.
I like
in the
that.
townie sweatshirt. I think that might be if we go to one. Thank you for.
Well, there we go. Now you can workshop what a townie looks like. I'm really excited to see.
That's interesting.
Oh gosh. All right. And then over your time of covering all the stories of Beverly, is there one that stands out to you as the silliest, the craziest? Schubert aside.
I know I was going to give the same. Well, I think it's the animal stories, and I did.
We love the animal
one
stories here.
Once on Zeke the turtle.
I remember.
You remember Zeke the turtle?
Yes.
He was in Rowell Side.
Well, now that was two stories, right? Because he had two
and then
great
he escaped
escapes.
again, and I think I think the second time he didn't come back, which I hate to say.
I hold out hope that maybe he just dug himself a little hole and is staying frozen until he wants to come out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, turtles live a long time, right? So,
They really do. Maybe he's just living in the pond.
yeah. That's a good way to look at it, and he's happy. But Zeke, so I don't know. There was this recent story. I actually didn't write about it, but what was the animal that was caught and then was brought to Beverly? It was in West.
Oh my gosh! It was like a huge,
like a lizard type
giant
thing.
lizard. Yeah. And it went with what's the animal rescues?
Rainforest Reptiles.
That's right.
And I have a message into them because I think they're building. I know that the story said they're building a home for him at their place in Beverly, and I would love to do that story on.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
The new home of the
giant
certain
lizard.
type of lizard.
The monitor lizard? Is that what it is?
I think you're right.
I know
I'm
it's not like
what
a
the
Komodo
heck is
dragon,
that?
but it's
big.
And it was on the lam for
Yeah.
weeks in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Right. So yeah, I think animal stories are right. It's like
they just
like
keep
cat
coming
stories
back
on Facebook or something or whatever.
Yeah,
You know?
people love a good animal
Yeah.
story, and we've had quite a few
Yeah,
here.
we have had some good ones. Yeah.
All right, nice. I like that. And being a townie, you've had your whole life here. What is your ideal Beverly day?
I know, that's a great one. Well, I love like going out for breakfast. If I go out, like I'm not really a restaurant guy at night as much, but I do like going to breakfast.
Yeah.
So just going to, and there are a lot of good breakfast spots in Beverly. So I love doing that. And then, I mean, yeah, you know, hanging out. I mean, who wouldn't want to hang out like at Independence Park or Lynch Park around there? And that, but I got, during the pandemic, my wife and I started doing, like a lot of people, we did a lot of the, you know, the hiking in different public properties and like the Greenbelt properties. And there are a lot of good ones in Beverly too. They actually opened the new, you know, a new entrance, you know, to Moraine Farm that you can walk through.
Oh, really?
Sort of next to Hannah Village.
Okay.
And they expanded that entrance, and it's a beautiful walkway. I think a lot of people still don't know about it that much. And so to go for a walk through there is really nice to appreciate the open spaces of Beverly. And then, like at night, I run. I like to still run, and I do some road races, but I really like to run at the high school track, like at night, just before sunset.
Ooh,
and it's usually,
okay.
sometimes, I mean, there's not a ton of people, but I don't know, there's something about that. It's kind of peaceful. You know, there aren't a lot of people. The sun's going down. I'm getting exercise. And it's a
Out
nice
on the
campus.
track.
The high school is really a nice,
It is beautiful.
a nice campus, you know, for a school. So anyway, I guess that would be an ideal
Perfect
day.
Beverly day.
Then
I love
watching the Celtics at night or the Red Sox on my couch, that would be
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect New England.
Not that exciting, but yeah.
Yeah, right. I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Well, thank you, Paul. This has been great. Do you want to tell the folks how they can find the Beverly Beat,
Yeah.
how they can subscribe?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah. It's just, if you just Google, you know, the Beverly Beat and, you know, my name, and it'll pop right up. And it's on, the platform is Substack, but if you just go to the site, it shows that you can subscribe. You can subscribe for free. You don't have to pay. You can, you know, look at it and read stories, and then maybe at some point decide you want to pay too. So yeah, so it's just Beverly Beat .substack.com.
Perfect.
Find it.
Awesome.
Great.
And for those that love to support local artists and local journalism, they can subscribe, they can pay a little bit of money and keep the good stories going.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This has been great. And we will be back next month. I have no idea who our guest will be, but you'll find out soon, and so will I. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks. Lindsay.
Thanks.